Join us for the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast, where we discuss matters close to the heart. This and every Saturday at 8 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on HGG Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, alongside your co-host, Pastor Clive Atkinson, Bishop Hopeton Morris, and Elder Edmund Muir. The Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. We're not just talk, we're informative. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast right here on HGG Radio. We are so delighted for yet another Saturday morning. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we are here to rejoice and be glad in it. And of course, we are thanking you for tuning in to HGG Radio, Edmonton's #1 in gospel music. We want to thank everyone who is joining us, everyone from near and far that tune in Saturdays after Saturdays right here on the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. Thank you so much for joining the show. Of course, here on the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast, we discuss matters that are close to the heart. I'm your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Pastor Clive Atkinson and Elder Edmund Muir. Of course, on our first Saturday, we don't have Bishop joining us. Of course, we want to send mad love to Bishop here on the first Saturday. Together this morning, we will be exploring a profound topic that affects us all: unlocking the resilient adult, healing and empowering the inner child. We'll delve into the ways in which our childhood experiences shape us, and how by confronting and healing our inner wounds, we can tap into a deeper wellspring of wealth, courage, and resilience. Through our guest that will be joining us in the program, inspiring stories, expertise, and guidance, we'll discover how to acknowledge, embrace, and transform our inner child, unlocking a more empowered, compassionate, and purpose-driven adult. So let's dive in and get this started on this transformative journey together. Good morning to my esteemed co-host, again, Pastor Clive, Elder Muir. Good morning. Chime in, greet the masses.
Bless you, sir. Bless you, bless you, bless you. How are you doing, Doc?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. Blessed and highly favored and flavored by the
Lord. Morning to you, Dr. Flavor. Morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. How are you keeping?
I'm doing well, and good morning to all the listeners as well.
Yeah, good morning to all the listeners this morning, and to everyone that take the time out this morning, whatever you're doing this
morning. Absolutely. They told me last week that it was a wonderful show. They enjoyed it. I was listening as I was making my way over to New York. So big props, for Elder Muir for sitting in the driver's seat last week and steering the ship. It was indeed powerful. Let me say good morning to Mahalia Emmings, my aunt, who's joining in from Jamaica. She said, "Good morning, everyone. God bless you, anointed people. It's good to be alive today." I also want to shout out my other aunt. She's always on Saturdays after Saturdays and absolutely love the show and love the host. She never usually comment, but Jem in Long Island, New York. So let me say good morning to my darling auntie. My aunts always coming and really support what I do, and so I really want to say big shout out to them. Jacqueline Brown, good morning to you as well. And Jacqueline want to say happy anniversary, and to those who are listening to us on the first Emancipation Day for a lot of you in your countries, HGG Radio, we celebrate our second anniversary. Of course, we were going to ask the listeners throughout the show to just chime in and tell us what this station have meant to you. And of course, this podcast, we are celebrating our second anniversary under the team We Are Still Standing. So HGG Radio turned 2 this month, and of course, it's a big celebration. And so we want to also thank Carol. Good morning to you, Carol. Carol Shakes here. Want to say good morning, Sonia Bowen. Good morning to you over there as well in Florida. So if you're joining us from near and far, US, Florida, I know the Atlanta crew, the Jersey crew, Florida team, the UK masses at Antigua, Grand Cayman, St. Martin, the entire East and throughout the Caribbean. I don't want to get myself in trouble, but Pastor, our listeners love when I mention where they're joining in from. So let me say good morning again to all my listeners. We have a good show lineup. We want to dive into it. We have a powerful show lineup. And of course, once the flyer went out, so much persons are telling me, hey, these are great guests. And a lot of folks was expecting, they're excited about this discussion. And of course, we want to delve into it and unlock as much as we can. Really, really a powerful topic. And on HEG Radio, we talk about topics that are often discussed as taboo, the topics that people want to hear, Rev, but not sure how to say it and how to even start to have the conversation. So tell you what, on HEG Radio, we'll start the conversation, and we'll keep it going. We'll keep the conversation moving. So let me set it up and we'll get started. Yeah, we're good, co-host.
We're good. We're good. We're good.
Awesome, awesome. So I'll set it up and we'll
Before
yeah.
before you go, I want to say a happy birthday to my nephew, which is my son, Tino Mir. He celebrated his birthday yesterday. I didn't want to forget about it. So happy birthday to you, Tino. Continue to do the good things and let God do the better things in your life.
Wonderful. Happy birthday. We say to you, Tina, from the HGG family. Yes, happy birthday. We have three guests that is joining us here on the Ironman Empowerment Podcast this morning. So I tell you that we have something great lineup for you. We have three speakers or our guests that will be coming in talking to us, and we'll be having this conversation together. So let me just invite them first to come in. Let me introduce them. We have Natalie this morning. Natalie King is an educator and former Sunday school superintendent. Her current role focuses on helping children and young adults fine tune and discover their innate ability in a meaningful way. She was born in Kingston, Jamaica, where she attended the Holy Childhood High School for Girls, having degrees from Stony Brook University, Ulster University, and Pace University. We say good morning and welcome to the Ironman Empowerment Podcast, to Natalie King. Yes, yes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our next guest, Andrew Mark Jones. Andrew began his professional rather, journey as a senior assistant accountant at KPMG Pete Marwick, one of the top four accounting firm. A Manning's High School alumnus, Andrew Mark earned his bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Technology and an MBA from the University of Wales. Andrew is a Christian who loves families, like to help people, a devoted husband of nearly 10 years, and a proud father of two, a football enthusiast. Andrew Mark supports Manchester United and Brazil. He is known for his approachable nature and believes that everything you do should be done to the best of your ability. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to the show Andrew Mark Jones. Andrew is here. Let me see. All right, Andrew may have just dropped off for a little while. All right, he'll be back. He'll be in the show for a second. All right, our final guest that'll be joining us, Michael Coward. Michael, 17 years of experience in social work administration, working with the youth at risk, and in a leading social work agency in Jamaica. He holds a Master's of Science in Counseling and Social Work, qualifying, he says, a Master's of Business Administration, BTech, an Associate in Diploma in Education. So we have quite a number of educators as well. Two educators are on and an accountant. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to the Ironman Empowerment Show, Michael Coward. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for being here. We want to dive into this important discussion. I'll set it up and then we'll be on our way as our other guests will be chiming in, maybe just having some technical difficulties there. But let's set it up and then we'll have this conversation. All right. Just to let our guests know, on the Ironman Empowerment Podcast, we keep the conversation real. All right. So don't be afraid. We don't shy away from it. We have the real conversation. We tell it like it is. Yeah. So we'll set it up and then we'll go. So the inner child within holds the key to understanding our deepest fears, desire, and motivations. Yet for many of us, that inner child has been wounded, silenced, or hidden away. The consequences of neglecting our inner child can be far reaching, leading to self doubt, anxiety, and a sense of disconnection from our true selves. But what if we could unlock the resilient adult within by healing and empowering that inner child? In this conversation, we'll delve into the ways in which our childhood experiences shape us, and how by confronting and healing our inner wounds, we can tap into a deep wellspring of strength, courage, resilience. We'll explore the transformative power of self compassion, self awareness, and self acceptance, and discover how to integrate our inner child into our adult's life, unlocking a more authentic, whole, and empowered version of ourselves. This morning, as we dive into the conversation, we'll be talking about unlocking the resilient adult, healing and empowering that inner child. Elder Muir, you have the first question.
Thank you very much one more time, Dr. Bryan, and thank you for all the listeners who are on. And the Lord, our God, He made man before He took the woman from the the rib of the man. So I will, however, ask the first question to our very esteemed guest, Sister Natalie King, and I want you to tell us, what is the inner child and how does it impact our adult lives?
Once again, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here and for the invitation. In terms of the question, the inner child, we have to first start with some definitions. And
Mhm.
so the definitions I'm going to throw out there is prototype and schemas. And so, as a child, you're first introduced to a model. That's your prototype, your first experience, your first emotion that you've now tracked as a feeling and sorted out for yourself. And now you build that into a schema in terms of organizing it and recalling it, placing it where you think it fits. So, whatever the child is introduced to as a prototype now forms the framework of reference for what the child goes back to. This is now how the child is going to be conditioned by certain stimuli. This is how the child is now going to formulate responses. So when you speak to the inner child, you're really speaking to what prototypes was this child introduced to when they were younger, and how do they relate to it? Because that's now how they're going to relate to it as an adult.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bryan.
Yes, thank you so much for that, for breaking that down for us regarding the inner child. My question then is how do childhood experience then shape our belief, our behavior, or our relationship?
Is that my question still?
Yes, I'll come back to
Oh,
you with it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so when my niece, I have one of my nieces, when she first visited us in Jamaica, and she never really had any experience in animals, and she saw a dog, and we said the dog, and she's something, oh, doggy, whatever. She saw it on television, and then she saw a cow, and she now assimilated that four-legged creature as doggy too. Said no, no, it's a cow. And then she saw a goat, and she thought that was a doggy too. And so you see her now as a child formulating a schema. When
Mm.
you're a child and you are damaged, you also incorporate that as your first prototype and formulate that as your schema. You have a fight, flight, or freeze response to the emotional damage or abusive damage or verbal damage or the sexual damage that you incurred. And sometimes in adulthood now, you either replicate the damage that was done to you upon others, or you do avoidance, or if you are intuitive and reflective, you seek the help that is necessary. But normally, when you don't know the damage is there, you go back to either replicating, avoiding, or exhibiting some toxic behaviors in response to what is reoccurring from childhood.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, and for breaking that down as we dive into the conversation. We want to bring our next guest in, and as we keep the conversation flowing and going, Michael, as we breaking down the inner child so that we can start to move to unlocking that. Michael, I'm not sure if you have had an experience of from let me say, that damage from that inner child, or that dysfunction or that hurt from that inner child, or inner childhood, that you have to deal with and have to pull yourself up in order to even start to begin the journey of becoming who you are today. Michael, if you can talk to us about that experience.
Good morning again, and thank you. And Natalie, that was a very good definition. You understand?
Yes.
And there's nothing I can add to that. But as for your question, before I get into that, though, I want to say that psychologists, researchers have spent a lot of manpower trying to make a link between our childhood and our adulthood.
Mhm.
But have to talk about what is in the Bible, because that link was already made when the Bible said, "Train up a child in the way he should go, so that when he's old, he will not depart from it." That was already making a link and saying, depending on what you do with the child at this stage, the child will show signs of that when he's an adult. Now, what you're referring to, that the question that you asked me more specifically,
Mhm.
we call it adverse childhood experiences, and how our adverse childhood experiences can shape how we respond, how we behave when we're adults. Now, I can talk about my childhood experiences, and I can talk about, because as you mentioned, I work in the childcare system, and so we still have children, and so when we see children coming into our care and behaving certain kind of way that it might seem baffling or stuff, when you look on the history, now this child is not even an adult as yet, but it's a teenager. When you look on the history of this particular child, then it helps you to understand why this child behaved this way. And so, on the opposite side, if it is not an adverse childhood experience, let's say it's a good experience, that too will inform how the child behaves. Let me give you an example. Now, I have a child that um, the child responds a particular way to a male staff. Uh, when we did our research, I mean, very aggressive. That child would not listen to that staff at all. It's always attacking that particular staff. When we looked into the child's history, we looked at paternal history, what used to happen with the child and his father.
Mhm.
No, that father was extremely abusive to that child. And in addition to that, that particular staff not only bears the last name of the father, but also looks like the father. So, right
Oh.
off the bat, that child sees that father, that child remember that experience, that adverse childhood experience. And remember, I'm saying this is not even an adult as yet, so you can imagine when that child gets older, if it is not corrected, if the child does not get the attention necessary to reshape that particular experience. Now, that experience is not going to change, it's going to be there, but now we have to try and find a way to see how we can let the child use that experience in a positive way. You
Mm.
understand? I've had my own experiences. Elder Muir knows me from a long time, and he knows that I have had a very tough upbringing. I I have not had particularly um, good parents or good parenting.
Thing, yes.
Yes. But what that means, I was speaking somewhere last week. I was saying to them, whilst I have not had good parenting, this is a childhood experience. Whilst I've not had good parenting, it still it still informs me how to be a good parent. So you will still hear me say, my mother taught me good lesson. My father taught me good lesson. They taught me what not to do. Not only did they teach me what not to do, the things that I desire of them, I tap into my inner child now to know
Hmm.
that that desire that I have of my parents, my children most likely will have that good and positive desire.
So in other words, you're doing what you had desire of them, and you try to do that for your child. So sometimes it's unlearning what you learn and change that pattern, that dysfunction, and so that it don't continue in the generation. That is very very important. And even what you said about the child and seeing that staff that looks so much like the parent, and I think that can really even spark that trauma that can even go into adulthood. It's almost like somebody being violated, and as soon as you say something that their violator had said, or a certain action or a way, it actually bring them back into that state of being. You are the professional here, or is that what we're saying, that it can also has that effect on the mental mind or the psyche then?
Could I speak to that?
Yes, of course.
So, what you're referring to now is the stimuli, right? The
Ah,
first time the child was introduced to that particular event or experience, they had a natural or a biological response to it, right? And then over time, with continued experiences, they have now been trained or conditioned to respond in that way. And so now in adulthood, they are now experiencing that trigger. It might not be the intent of the trigger, but it is the trigger that they were conditioned with nonetheless. And so that risk, then they've formulated now a pattern. A pattern, as we know, is a design that repeats itself in the same way. So as long as the trigger occurs, the pattern now exhibits itself. And now the pattern goes through a series of sequence, right, in a cycle until the completion of the response, right? And so for an adult, you have to now try to understand what is the stimuli, what is triggering me. And this calls for a lot of reflection. Some people can do that on their own, and some people need a lot of therapy. How can I identify the triggers that are causing this design that is within me and start off this cycle of events?
Powerful. Thank you for that,
I just
Elamir.
want to
Yes, yes,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to add, there's something that you said that I would just want to address and underline. It is
Yes.
not necessarily unlearning it. To
Mm,
unlearn the experience might expose you to give that the children that same experience. You don't unlearn the experience, you utilize the experience
mm,
for something good. You become self-aware, self-awareness, right? And say, all right, I've had this experience, I will not forget it. But
right.
what am I going to do? Am I going to see the glass half full or half empty? How am I going to use this particular experience to better parent my own children or children who are around me?
So in layman term, you're turning that negative experience and see how you can use it in a positive for the greater good. Yes?
Yes, yes.
Yes. All right. Because we have listeners from all walk of life. We want to bring it down as well to their level that they can understand it. Elamir, you have a next question, sir.
Oh yeah. So, Mr. Coward, based on your line of conversation, then we all have that inner child on the inside. My question to you is, how can we as individuals recognize and acknowledge this inner child?
All right, thanks for that question, Elder Moore. I made reference earlier to self-awareness, self-reflection, and it comes back to what I said earlier. We're not going to forget. You understand? We are going to reflect on it. We are going to be aware of what happened to us and how can we now use this, as I mentioned, to better parent our own children. In that essentially, and Natalie made reference to it too, essentially, when you're doing that self-reflection and that self-awareness, you may find that you need help. You may find that you need therapy. And you will find that if you don't seek and receive therapy, right, you might, the same mistake will happen if you don't seek therapy to correct all of that. Also, it is important that sometimes you write it down, because when you write down some of these experiences, when you're doing the reflection, you go over these experiences, you reflect on them, and then now, as I said, you seek the help to help you to overcome these. Now, a part of the help, which is very important, because I just mentioned seek therapy and I don't want to leave this out.
Hmm.
Prayer is extremely important. When you are reflecting, when you are seeking help, we all know where the greatest help comes from, and it comes from the Most High God. You understand? And then we have to show some self-compassion, to be compassionate to those around us. We have to show compassion and kindness to ourselves. And as I said, you need to do some self-talking. That's a part of the reflection and a part of the awareness.
Thank you very much. And you have just mentioned basically strategies that can help us to integrate our inner child into our adult lives. But I want to turn now to Sister Natalie. How can we as individuals reframe negative experiences that or challenges that will foster resilience?
In order to reframe, I want to go back to knowing who the inner child is. It's imperative that you spend time with yourself. Sometimes we are always with someone else. We are busy in our own minds. We really don't get to know who we really are, our likes and our dislikes, choices that we would have made. Do I like vanilla ice cream over butter pecan? Or is it because everyone else is always choosing that? Do I prefer to be a person that goes take a walk, or am I always outside busybody because this is what required of me? Get to know who you are. This is how you get in contact with this inner you, that inner child. What does Natalie want? What is Natalie really like, right? And so you need to do that. When you start to engage who you are, and then you start to look at what you need, right? And then as you tap into what you need, you start to now tap into what do you need to get there, the tactics, the how to, right? Because what works for Natalie won't work for Billy. You understand? And you cannot apply what is good for Natalie always for Billy. Some things are general, but Billy does not necessarily have the personality that Natalie has. And so you have to be able to get to know you and what works best for you. Now, there are generic coping mechanisms that you can use. Some people, when they're stressed, they use stress balls, they make lists and everything. And you can go through a gambit of that when you sit with a professional therapist, right? But get to first know you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Very well said. And I must say, it's so powerful because it was just, I believe a few months ago, I said to my wife, my favorite meat is curried goat. All my life, I could not say what my favorite meat was. And I believe it's just a learning process. It may seem simple, but I looked at it from a certain angle. It's just a learning process. So what I'm saying, I believe that children and adults too, we do learn over time, and we're not going to get it all at the same time. But after revisiting through meditation, and as Michael said, Bible studies, etc., then we'll be able to know our true selves. And that's very good. Dr. Bryan, back over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm coming to Pastor Clive, who have a question. Pastor Clive, are you ready with your question? You had some challenges there. If not, I can go and then we'll circle back with Pastor Clive. As you're
I'm
yes.
ready.
All right, go right ahead, sir.
Question, I'm just going to put it out there. It's what are some common wound or trauma that can affect the inner child? Common wound, trauma that can affect the inner child.
All right, if I may. Yes, if I may. So common wounds, and I think all of us can speak from some place of experience. And I'm going to talk about one that Jamaican parents sometimes a lot of times they don't agree because they say something else. No, my grandmother and grandfather used to have a style of beating what they call them jackfruit. Let me explain jackfruit to you. So jackfruit is because they're a little older, they're elderly. So when they're going to beat a grandchild, they have to do it jackfruit style, which means my grandmother, the child will be floored. My grandmother sit on that child, and the grandfather put on the beatings. Now, a lot of people make reference, as a matter of fact, some of my cousins make reference to how that beating did well for them. But the truth is, those beating for me was very traumatizing.
Oh boy.
If I didn't have some amount of cognitive restructuring, you know, getting rid of the negative thoughts and replacing them with positive thoughts, it would mean that this is the experience, this is what I saw, and this is what I need to do when my children, or anybody for that matter, because people keep thinking that it's only children. If you're taught that when somebody disobeys you, you give them some decent flogging in a relationship, even in a relationship with a wife or a husband, that might be your natural instinct. You understand? And it is something that sometimes the church don't even look on it that particular kind of way, but it's extremely traumatizing. You understand? When you pull it back and you look on it, it's extremely traumatizing. It actually damages more than it does well. In fact, because you have to spend a lot of time to recover, to get rid of that thought, to get rid of that lesson. You understand? You have to spend a lot of time to do it. And sometimes while you're spending a lot of time to do that, it puts you in a place of depression sometimes too, because here it is that you are not sure what exactly to do, because every time that you stepped out of line, you got a waxing, you got a jackfruit. You understand? And so that's a traumatizing event for almost all of our cousins. As a matter of fact, some of the cousins who believe that, you know, this made them better, they're in abusive relationships. They keep abusing their own children. And nothing can be as traumatizing for me if I was to beat my own children, if I was to give them a jackfruit. I don't know how I could sit after that and look in my children's eye. I don't know what kind of lesson, I don't know what kind of message I will be sending to the children.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So this really, I mean, it gave me an awe, because a lot of time, especially from our culture, let me say, we see this as good, and we're not saying to those that you cannot discipline your child, because the Bible said foolishness has entered into their heart and the rod of correction will drive it away. I think it's how. I think it's how. I think it's a way. I think it is understanding that discipline. I don't support the excessive whipping and lashing and jackfruit style, like our guest had mentioned, you know, but to let the child understand. And of course, you can discipline that child without affecting that child so much. And that's one of the things, even for me personally, when it comes to disciplining my children. I have girls, and I don't want my girls to grow up believing that it's okay for a man to be beating on them for everything. And so one of the things I try to have is more conversation than lashing them. You understand what I'm saying? Especially with belt and wires and all these that we come from. So thank you so much to our guests for these thoughts so far. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back, and we'll continue this conversation. We are talking, and we'll have our other guests that will be joining us. And so we're talking about by unlocking the resilient adult and healing and empowering the inner child. So if you're just joining us here on HEG Radio Ironman Empowerment Podcast, we have our special guests who are joining us here on the podcast. Let's please stay with us. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with you.
I'm still standing.
HGG Radio is celebrating 2 incredible years of spreading God's love and inspiration. We are still standing, and it's all thanks to God and your faithful support. As we mark this milestone, we're reminded that God's word reaches all, whether we are at the highest mountain or the lowest valley. And that's exactly what HGG Radio is all about. Reaching you at the highest mountain and the lowest valley with gospel, inspirational music, and uplifting messages. We need your continued support to keep sharing this message of hope. Visit our website at www.hegradio.ca or send a WhatsApp message at 825-343-4486 to donate and help us keep the light shining bright. Let's keep spreading the love of God together.
Hey, 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 the Saturday Hub is back online on HGG Radio. Come join me, Auntie Renee, at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central Time, and 12 noon Eastern Time. It's gonna be a great, great, great celebration. Children, you don't wanna miss it.
Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me.
Are you ready to amplify your message and reach hearts with purpose?
Introducing HGG Advertising, your partner in spreading the gospel and connecting with the Christian community.
Churches, Christian based businesses, listen up.
With HGG Advertising, you can reach your audience through powerful radio campaigns.
Engage hearts, inspire minds, and grow your community with HGG Radio, which is already reaching 136 countries worldwide.
We specialize in promoting Christian values and helping businesses aligned with faith-based principles.
Whether it's a church event or your business rooted in Christian values, HGG Advertising is here for you.
Connect with us and let's share your message with purpose.
HGG Advertising, spreading the gospel, connecting communities. Email us today at ads@hggradio.ca. That's ADS at hggradio.ca. Or call us today at 825-343-4486.
Thank you for staying with us here on the Ironman Empowerment Podcast. We are talking about unlocking the resilient adult and healing and empowering the inner child. Joining us is our special guests, Natalie King, Andrew Mark Jones, and Michael Coward. As we are having this empowering conversation, we want to welcome Andrew Mark, to the show. Andrew, welcome to the Ironman Empowerment Podcast, sir.
I'm happy to be here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Just having a little.
That's from my end.
Yes.
Yes. All right, but we're gonna see how best it's clearing up. We're gonna work through it. Andrew, we want to bring you in. We're having the conversation about healing the inner child and unlocking that resilient adult. And as we're bringing you into the conversation, we all right, we're having that.
Still have it.
Yeah. So it had clear. But let me see if we can work through it. Yeah, I want to ask you, Andrew, how does healing the inner child impact our relationship and overall well-being?
Do that again, please.
How does the inner child impact our relationships presently, our relationship, and our overall? How does healing the inner child impact our relationships and overall well-being? So we're having the conversation about that inner child.
All right. For me, when I first looked at the theme, the first thing that came to mind was children live what they learn, and I was listening to Mr. Coward just now when he was speaking about beatings and the different levels of abuse. And I believe that if at an early stage, for some reason, you were traumatized, it does affect you. And I'll give you a personal experience. When I was younger, I used to attend camps with my father. And at that time, in my mind, I think I could sing. I guess others thought the same thing. And I remember we were at the camp. There's always a night where we have call it a concert. I was up there singing, and I made a mistake. And at the time I would have been attending. I just went with my father. It would have been individuals who were much older than me. I think it would have been a senior camp at the time, and the entire chapel laughed at me. And for me, it was damaging. I went outside. They beckoned me to come back inside. I didn't. And, just looking back at that thing, I realized that if I'm standing in front of a crowd of individuals, they're sweating. It still happens.
Mm.
It used to bother me, but I find that nowadays somehow I try to make it a little bit funny. I'll stop and take even now there's I'm sweating a little bit. So for the question in mind, getting over that trauma or healing that inner child, it is extremely important because it will stick with you for basically the rest of your life if you don't get it dealt with or have it dealt with.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Natalie, I want to bring you in on this because I want to, I want to, let me not say diagnose, but talk to me. Natalie. Talk to me about what happened there.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Insecurities, and so when you have something like that happen, it creates a breach, a break, right? And that damage is now done, and and some people have insecurities as a result. I know a family member who used to fold in her lips and wouldn't smile because someone said to her, "Your lip too big. Oh, your lips so big," and she interpreted that as she was ugly. And so throughout all her childhood pictures, she refused to smile, and she has such a beautiful smile. No, that triggered something with me. When I went with the same relative on a trip recently, a couple of days actually, and we were at the lighthouse and we saw this little girl and she had a smile. So we were at the very top of the lighthouse, right? Over 100 and something steps. And the mother said to her, "Smile." And I saw that same insecurity in that little girl. And so what I turned to her and I said, because I know that the mother is at fault too. I'm not trying to say she's a bad parent, but
Mhm.
sometimes we inadvertently sow things into our children's life that develop as an insecurity. I'm sure that the whole church didn't need to laugh at him the way they did, but they sowed that nonetheless, whether it was intentional or unintentional. So I
Mhm.
turned to the child in an effort to help fix the issue. I said to her, I was looking at you and you have such a beautiful set of teeth. May I see them, please? And she just burst out smiling. I said, "Oh, you look so great when your teeth is showing." And she smiled all the way down. And her mother turned to me and said, "Thank you for that." When you sow insecurity in a child, you have insecure adults. And insecure adults
Mhm.
are very dangerous people sometimes. Insecure adults are very timid and fearful people. Insecure adults do things outside of the norm just to prove to that little me that it can, or to try to still go back to that safe harbor that little me never had.
Wow, that is so powerful. Thank you so much for that. Because, and one of the things that why we ask is, and we try to balance the panel, of course, because one of the thing we want to bring the different perspective, and as we have the conversation, we can somewhat strike that balance as to what's happening, because there are persons online who have gone through and is going through and is still dealing with this because of what somebody had said, and so that see that they are still struggling with even today. Elamure, I'm coming to you with your next question, sir.
Thank you very much. Based on what was said earlier, I will ask Mr. Coward this question because he mentioned something. Uh, for the person that has no education, just a father or a mother, how can that person identify when a child is going through his or her weaknesses or attitudes that would say that child is damaged? How can you identify these?
All right, Mr. Mayor, thanks for Eldamore, thanks for that question. All right. Well, we know if you're the parent or if you are around the child, you will know what normal is for that child. You will know what the child responses are on a normal circumstance. And so when you start seeing changes in how that child responds to the different stimuli, to include if a child is doing well at school, and you see the grades start falling, you know that something is wrong. If a child is usually talkative and you realize that child starts to shut up or shut down, it's not normal. You know that something is wrong. If a child usually expresses themselves well and the expression is not there. If a child who is usually not scared start cawing at every move and stuff, something is wrong. So parents, whether the parents are educated or not, the most important part of recognizing if something is wrong with your child is actually knowing what normal is for your child. And Elder Muir, we don't need any degree to know what normal is for our children. Because right now, I have 4 kids of my own. And I will say to one. I have a very beautiful, loving girl called Chelsea, and Chelsea is extremely expressive. I can tell you when Chelsea is not well physically or something is happening with Chelsea because she's not her usual self. And so that's why it is important not only to observe the children, Elder Muir, it's important to listen to the children. And I'm going to tell you why I'm drawing an underline under that particular sentence because my grandmother and grandfather, they were old school. They will tell you, and some parents know to include Christians, that children are to be seen but not
Not heard.
heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so your children can't now communicate with you because of fear that you will respond in a negative way. I'm going to give you an example, and it's with me and one of my son. So Mikel, he fought at school one day, and I'm going to whisper that I was surprised. I was extremely surprised because this is a very calm, non-violent. There's no indication at all that this child would ever get into a shouting match, let alone a fight.
How old is he? Sorry.
At the time he was 11, right? Um, he came home and he didn't tell me. The teacher told me, and when the teacher told me, to be honest, I tried very hard not to celebrate because I'm saying my son is fighting him. But you know what? I, not to celebrate, you know. And when I came home, I said to Mikel, "Why you got in a fight at school? That's not normal. But why didn't you tell me?" Now his response let me know that I had some work to do. The child said that, Daddy, I did not tell you because I'm afraid of what you might have said or done. No, I had more work to do. It means, and that's fine. That's fine. I had work to do. We don't get the manual with the children. But what
Mm-hmm.
I did was not only just to say I had work to do, I actually did work. And so now, this child who is 12 now can come to me and whisper and say, Daddy, I think I have a little girlfriend.
Ooh.
The girlfriend aside, that's not even it because I'm going to get something. It's just the fact that this child is now comfortable, Elder
Enough.
Muir, is
That's right.
comfortable enough to come to me and say things. So you understand? So parents will know if their children are hurting if they know what normal is for their children.
Yes, very, very. I really like that. I really like that. And so it tells you then we must, listen to the children. I'm gonna come to Andrew because I want to ask Andrew. Andrew, what are some of would you see this as one of the misconception in raising children based on the generation before? The scene, and I just want to tap into this right here because I think it's going to help somebody. See but not heard. Like you're there, but we don't need to hear your voice because you're a child. So don't say anything. Do you think this is one of a big misconception that is even affecting children even in adulthood? And you answer. Let me leave it here.
Well, I believe you're hearing me, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are.
I love the way Mr. Coward speaks, and I can really relate to what he's saying. And yes, I must agree. It is a misconception, and For those of us who are parents now, we must understand that how things were before, they are definitely, it's not, the children are just different, and we cannot keep that analogy anymore. Um, if we don't listen to our children, we won't know what is happening. And if they are not coming to us, then they will find themselves going to others, and that might not be a positive thing. It may worsen the situation.
That's
So
right.
I really believe that yes, we need to be observing them, we need to listen to them. And when he said that his young son could come and say, "Boy, dad, I have a girlfriend," this is something that, it's a type of relationship that I want to have with my children. I'm probably not there yet, but it is something that I'm working on. I prefer if they come to me for everything. I mean, I don't know everything, but I prefer that, because if I don't know, then I could take them to somebody who I know will have some sort of positive influence or impact on their life.
Can I say something there, Andrew?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very, 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 very good. But is it that you're too strict with your children? Because sometimes discipline can cause our children not to want to come to us or have trust to come to us because they believe they will be ridiculed.
Can I jump in here?
Well, sure.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
we need to have a nice balance, right? Where they can come to you, you reserve judgment, because some people are quick. As soon as children open their mouth, they're quick to start judging, they're quick to start leveling the accusation. Listen, learn to listen, not combatively to have a response, but just learn to listen, to tease out what is really happening. Listen to even what they're not saying and read between the lines, and
That's
then have a thoughtful response to what is going on. And they're more at ease to tell you. It doesn't mean that you cannot apply discipline, because some parents think it's a free for all because I was beaten or whatever. I shouldn't discipline my child, and that's just like a total, on
right.
the end of the spectrum, which is I wouldn't really recommend, right? And I'm sorry, I know mom is listening, but my mom was very free with us. I did not get a lot of spanking from her. I didn't say I didn't get spanking, but I didn't get a lot of spanking from her. And as a result, I used to speak to adults as a very precocious child, as if, because my mama allowed that. She allowed us to speak
Right.
to adults. And not, I didn't think it was rude, and she didn't think it was rude, but some adults thought it was rude. You understand? And so you have to have a nice balance in how you're training the children. Listen, don't be quick to judgment, listen attentively, ask probing questions, ask for things that you don't understand, and then apply the necessary that you need to apply.
That's so true. Because looking back, my mother didn't beat us for everything, and everything, she applied whooping. But I'm telling you, the woman was anointed. So whenever she get anointed, I'm telling you, you're going to get it, because when the spirit move on her, she's going to whoop you with the scriptures. But she don't give it to you. My mom said, I'll just add it up, I'll let it keep going until she can't take it no more. And she give you the scripture: children, obey your parents in the Lord. She don't just give it to you just so, she give you with the scriptures. She said, I'm going to beat discipline into you with the scriptures. Children, obey your parents. My mother would say, foolishness entered your heart, because that's what the Bible said. So the rod of course, I'm going to drive it away, because if you don't hear me, I'm going to let you feel it. But you don't, it not for everything. You just get this whooping, as she says something wasn't somebody. She was very level-headed, calm. But when she get anointed, as I said, she'll go there. Thank you so much for that. And Andrew, I think you wanted to chime in on it here, so I'll bring you in here, Andrew.
Anointed to be
Okay.
there.
In terms of the discipline, oh, it there may be some truth to that, but I try to explain why it is that I am doing this. And if I find that probably my reaction to whatever was done was not proper. I am not afraid to tell my kids that I'm sorry. I feel free to do that. But Mr. Muir, I think yeah, we may have to be careful in terms of how we do discipline them, because we don't want to be driving them away. Instead, like Mr. Coward, I want them to be coming to me with
That's good.
any and everything.
I want to be very transparent with you because I have three daughters, right? And two teenagers. And what I realize is that sometimes they will not come to me, right? And I know why. And that's why I ask you that question, right? But the good thing is that they will go to their mother. So we have created a balance right there. Thank you very much, Dr. Bryan.
Yes. Thank you so much. Pastor Clive, I'm coming to you, sir, with your question.
One other thing I was thinking about, you know, something that was said is that, you know, as we grow as children and become into adult, we still have that inner child. We have never mature because of the, our life that we lived. How can we help somebody that is an adult but still trapped in their mindset at 15, and sometimes they get, things trigger off and they just becomes like that child. They're adult, but they're still that child. I'm just putting the question out
So
Wow.
there.
that so they're trapped within their childhood
Yes,
experiences.
absolutely.
They're trapped in time, and it and let's deal with
Yes,
that, and then
yes, yes.
I'll talk
And then
about,
you do a follow up.
yeah.
That's good. Who wanna? We're gonna bring. We're gonna. Well, I want to hear both perspective on it. Michael, I'm gonna start with you. That's a very good question.
All right. If I get it correctly, Reverend was asking, how can we help somebody if we are still trapped? How can we help somebody to move on? And that's a
No,
very important.
no. So it's how do you help somebody who is still trapped? So they're now an adult, but they're still trapped in the trauma that happened at 15. They're still trapped in whatever happened before in their life. And so the minute they get a trigger, they go right back into that place. They have not matured yet into that adulthood. They're still trapped into that state. For example, a mama's boy, and he's an adult, and he's still looking at mama in the wife instead of being my wife. I'm looking at mother because I never have mommy love. So instead of having that more sexual love towards her, you're looking for that kind of mommy kind of behavior. Because I've seen that even in relationship. Sometimes because you are young and the charm and the stuff that you feel, you're still anything happen, you go back to 15. If you
All
you,
right.
you know what I mean? All right.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So we have something that we call cognitive restructuring, or you might want to call it reframing. The thing is, to be stuck, it means that, as you said, you've not dealt with it. And if it was that you could have dealt with it on your own, you would have already dealt with it, which means that you need help, and you need help from possibly more than one source. But even most importantly than the help, because when you're receiving the help, you don't change instantly. What you need to do is to communicate so that somebody can, who you're relating to, have an understanding of where you are. Because if I don't know where you're stuck at, I can't help you to move from that point. So if it is a spouse or stuff, a spouse need to have understanding and patience for that person. But that person also have to help themselves by seeking help. It might be from a therapist. It might be from somebody, a friend, or even a stranger that had that experience and can tell you, oh, I was at this place once, and this is what worked for me. This might not work for you, but you might need to turn over that stone and see if this works for you. If it don't stop trying to find something to move on from there. Because essentially, as we know, it is going to be damaging your relationship, damaging your path forward, because you are right there. But most importantly, it really is about seeking, accepting, and receiving help. And let me just add this to it. It is for men in particular. as I say, I work with teenage boys, and I'm a man myself. Men, most of the times, believe that seeking help is a sign of weakness.
Yes, yes.
That is
Mm.
why, that is why most people will say to you, it is men who seem to be stuck in their childhood ways or their childish ways, because we believe that seeking help, as I said, is a sign of weakness, and we must seek help. We must encourage children to seek help. To be frank with you, it is after I passed the age of about 40, I started recognizing how me being stuck at certain stage in my life was affecting the relationships around me, was affecting how I deal with people, was affecting connections and stuff. And so I had to seek help so I could move forward.
Wow, this is so powerful. This is so powerful. Thank you for that. Lady Natalie, will just hold your thought. We're going to take a quick break here at the top of the hour, and we are going to come back with Natalie's response on this. Please keep it locked and loaded right here to HEG's Radio, Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. We'll be right back.
Transforming your relationship every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's all about loving on purpose and the challenges that face us and how our relationship can be transformed. Are you feeling stuck in life or a loveless marriage? Let's journey together as you discover clarity, purpose, and fulfillment in life. I'm Bonita Grange, your relationship and life coach. Why suffer in silence when help is right here? Let's connect for a 30 minutes complimentary session at www.tlcbonitagrange.com or right here on HGG Radio. Talk to you soon. God bless.
Activate Core presents its annual virtual book tour from June 29th to August 31st. Join 30 authors from different countries and different genres as we traverse the virtual spaces of YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, WeChat, and many others. Join in our live radio interviews, webinars, and book reading activities. Share in our stories of hope with families and friends on the HGG Gospel Radio Station in Canada. Contact us at activatecore7@gmail.com for more information. See you online.
That's the virtual book tour live right here on HGG Radio, July 1st to August 9th, Mondays and Fridays, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, inside the Morning Flow with Pastor Odette Thompson. Looking forward to seeing you.
Are you ready to amplify your message and reach hearts with purpose?
Introducing HGG Advertising, your partner in spreading the gospel and connecting with the Christian community.
Churches, Christian-based businesses, listen up.
With HGG Advertising, you can reach your audience through powerful radio campaigns.
Engage hearts, inspire minds, and grow your community with HGG Radio, which is already reaching 136 countries worldwide.
We specialize in promoting Christian values and helping businesses aligned with faith-based principles.
Whether it's a church event or your business rooted in Christian values, HGG Advertising is here for you.
Connect with us and let's share your message with purpose.
HGG Advertising, spreading the gospel, connecting communities. Email us today at ads@hggradio.ca. That's ads@hggradio.ca. Or call us today at 825-343-4486.
HGG Radio. HGG Radio.
Thank you for staying with us here on the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. We are having a powerful, powerful conversation on this morning as we are really diving into unlocking, looking at that inner child. Yes, we are looking at that. We are unlocking the resilient adult. We're having the conversation, unlocking the resilient adult, healing and empowering the inner child. Of course, we have three special guests, Natalie King, and Jamark Jones, and Michael Coward, who are joining us here on the podcast. Natalie, we're coming to you of course, on that comment there you have. So,
oh yeah, thank you for that again. So, a couple of things. You're not anybody's savior. That's a big issue that people a trap that they fall into, thinking that they can save somebody. You cannot save anybody, especially if you're not equipped to give them the professional help that is needed. So that's at the top of the hour, right? Things that you can help with though: set boundaries. I have one of my brothers who is an habitual line stepper because of injuries in childhood, trauma in childhood. But I have to set my personal boundaries and don't allow him to cross it. And it might cause issues with you and your relationship with them, but you have to set boundaries for them. You also have to have some sort of accountability partner. You need to have who's trying to give assistance, and they need to have an accountability partner, an established one that can talk to them, can talk, as my mother would say, strong to them, right? Without
Mhm.
offense. And you, as a person, must know your limitations. You
Mm.
must know it. You know that you can't be exposed to certain things. It is not something that you can handle. Don't do it. I can't be in a certain situation where somebody put their hand in my face because I will resort to a childhood response of slapping you back, right? And so I don't enter situations where it will get to a point where somebody is going to even point their finger in my face.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying? Know your limitations. Know when to de-escalate. Know when to stay away from certain things. Know when to walk away. I'm not saying not to be a fighter. No, no, this is not what I'm advocating for. But just understand your own boundaries as well.
Yes, this is really, really good. Really good. Thank you so much for that. As we change gears, yes, somebody had something.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Oh,
just
sorry, Pastor.
with a part two to the question that I asked earlier,
Yes.
because sometimes we contribute as parents to our children, our children mental health in their upbringing, and they become, you know, they're not some children are not they're not extrovert, they're introvert, or
Introvert.
they're
Yeah,
introverts,
introverted.
right?
Yes.
And because of that, sometimes they were lashed out. Growing up, they were soft and quiet, and as Rev says, his son fight at 11 for the first time, and it was a shocker for him. That doesn't mean that they're not, having their own self. They're being their own self and their own personality. What I'm saying is this: is that we have to be careful how we contribute to their mental health, our children, and causing them to step into adulthood with certain things. And it's our responsibility as parents is to make sure that what we're setting up in our children for the future, for the next generation to come. Because if you grow a monster, that's a monster. Not because they're quiet. That monster is going to get up one day. That monster is going to wake up one day. You wonder, you have heard that, oh, somebody went to prison. Why did they went to prison? They did this. No, not something happened. It didn't happen overnight. It happened a long time ago, and it's grown, become into this monster. What am I saying? I'm saying to us as parents, we have to make sure that we are leading our children not based on how we were brought up, not necessarily on how we were grow. Um, 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 Sister King, you would have mentioned that you didn't get as much spanking, and your mom would allow you certain so on and so forth, right? But we have to take that balance. And you have some persons that don't like when, like, your mother may be doing that, but then your auntie is not agree and says, come on, you got to put that child, you got to do this or do that, right? It's not just one parents grow a child. Take a village to grow our children, because there's some things that I will let slide, but uncle is not going to let it slide, or auntie is not going to let it slide. But then it's up to me how I get upset. It's up to me how I say, oh, it's my responsibility, but I'm not doing a good job because I am using my past and what I have been through, and to blurry the fact that my child is out of hand and needed to be in line. So what am I saying? I'm saying that we have to create a balance. We have to know how to create this balance with our children, and know it's not only us that leading our children. So how do we encourage them, parents, to be able to have other persons to do the examining, examination. When you have your car and the car is giving, probably bring it to an examiner for them to look at it. You can tell there's a sound knocking, bam, 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 but you can't
The
fix what bang,
mechanic.
bang, bang, bang.
Yes.
You have to carry the bang, 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 bang to the
To the
mechanic
mechanic, right?
to deal with it. And I'm asking, Lady King,
Mm.
can we help a parents that is still in that trap because they are traumatized from what happened to them, and now their children is they are trying to secure their children, but they are damaging their children, causing more harm than good
I'm
to
glad
that.
you, thank you so much. I'm glad you mentioned the village, right? Because so for so long, we have been trapped in the European model of what a family should look like, the nuclear family of only mother and father and children, right? And we have not looked to how African, Asian, and even Native Americans have always looked at family as an extended unit where you have grandma, uncle, someone who's not really an aunt, but you call them auntie, and
Auntie.
cousin, and all of that that forms the village. You need to vet your support group. You need to vet your village. By that I mean you need to look at what are some of the qualities that I see in these people, whether they're blood related or not, that are going to be a part of my support structure for my child. And you need to have an agreement with them about what can or cannot be done. And you also need to know when to be hands off when when that support system is stepping up to do what you cannot do, right? Or what you don't have the courage to do. So have a support system in place. The support system doesn't necessarily always come from just the people that you go to church with. Don't be so limited in your view as to what should be a part of that support structure for your child. But start building a support group of whom your child can trust to go to. I have nieces and nephews especially, and I said to them, if you get drunk, please call me. Don't, if there's no one else, call me, right? And I'm not going to jump on with any judgment or anything, because my aim is to make sure you get home safe and not hit anyone down on the road, right? So
Mhm.
have a support group that they can go to, whether if they're blood related or not. Don't just invite anybody into the group chat now. Be very
That's right.
careful in how you monitor who supports you and your child.
So powerful, so powerful. Thank you so much for that response. It takes a village, and we're saying vet the village, invite the village, and allow the village to serve you
So,
in better term. Yes.
question now: what role does self-compassion play in healing and empowering the inner child?
We'll go to we're bringing in let's bring in Michael here, and then we're also gonna bring in Anjo just a little bit afterwards. Michael, your question, sir.
Hi again. All right. Self-compassion is important. As a matter of fact, you might have heard me mention a lot of things about self, and Natalie spoke about at some point that we have to rely on ourselves sometimes. As a matter of fact, that's what resilience is: relying on ourselves, relying on some help and stuff like that. And so, for us to be loving and compassionate, we have to first love ourselves, show ourselves compassion, some self care. You might not be able to care for someone if you can't care for yourself, because then you don't know what it looks like. And
Wow.
so that is why a lot of times you might make a lot of mistakes, because you believe that um, caring for yourself have look this particular way, and that's what you're going to show that child, or put that child under. But you have to spend the time on yourself while you spend time on not only your children, because we just spoke about community raising a child, but on also on others people's children. And let me give you an example, because I like to use example. Do you know that a lot of young men in Jamaica, their idea of loving themselves and self-care is being on the streets and smoking weed and wasting their time. And so when your child, your teenager becomes exposed to them, if you're pushing away your child, if the support system is not there, if the child can't come to you and talk, they're going to go to somebody else and talk, and they might be more receptive than you. What they believe to be compassion and love and care for themselves, they are going to now show it to your child. So now your child is getting what I have a lot of boys who say, Daddy don't care about me, no, but my dog them on the street care about me. So I'm saying,
Wow.
my
Wow.
dog them on the street care about me. What them do? Them man they take care of my man. Them man they make nothing happen to me. Them man they give me my weed. Me never hungry yet, and all of these things. That is the young men who are doing the taking care of. That's their idea of showing themselves compassion.
Mhm.
You understand? That's their idea of showing love, and so they show it to your children. You understand? And your children become receptive of that because they're not getting it from you. Now, if you don't know what it looks like, you seek help. And as I said, you can seek help in many ways. Gladly, this is a Christian platform, and the
Yes.
Bible talk about fruits of the Spirit. And so we might have to get into what the fruits of the Spirit look like so that we can show ourselves the kind of compassion that is necessary for us to show it to our own children.
So powerful indeed. Thank you so much, Pastor Clive. You good?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I want to bring Michael in. I want to switch gear because within the last
Andrew.
15 minutes, Andrew, rather, as we have about 15 minutes, I want to switch over into, as we have discussed much about the inner child, want to really switch over and look at unlocking that resilient adult, that aspect of things. And Elder Muir, I'm gonna bring Michael in, but I'll go to your question as we really talk about, unlocking that resilient adult.
Thank you. I want to go to the question, but what's going through my head is that we have basically dismissed some of the misconceptions that we have in terms of oh, it's only me. I'm the one that is rearing my child. We know now that it really takes a village, right? And also the misconception that a child must be seen and not heard. We have totally dismissed that. What I want to say, therefore, then, Andrew, as an adult, what are some of the misconceptions that we brought from childhood that can be damaging or deleterious to how we grow our children?
Personally, it would be one of those misconceptions that you have already said we have thrown out. A child should be seen and not heard. It is not necessarily so anymore. And like you have said, we have discovered that. Um, when it comes on to our boys, this sort of macho behavior, we cannot publicly share or show your emotions because you will be viewed as somebody who is regarded as weak. You're but not strong. Um, just how we tend to deal with things as men as well. We tend to keep it bottled inside. I think Brother Howard mentioned it. For example, a simple thing. We could be traveling to a place, but thank the Lord we have GPS and that sort of thing. But before that, we didn't want to ask anybody anything. We didn't. It's almost like I know everything. I know what I'm doing. I am always in control. That's not necessarily so either. So it's just some of these things we really need to brush aside because it is hurting our children.
Okay, very well said. But um, um, Michael mentioned something earlier when he was asked a question, and I want to just flip it there, Dr. Bryan, because Michael mentioned that how can a person then that is trapped, right, an adult trapped, help someone that is also trapped? Can you help us with that one? I mean, anyone can take that question. Anyone can take that question.
You can't help someone that's all, if you're trapped, it's hard
yeah,
for you to help someone else that is also trapped. And it is very self-righteous of you to think that you have the skills and the experience to help them, right? And at some point in time, you have to step aside to say, I am not enough to help this person. If you're able to acknowledge that even within yourself. So a trapped person necessarily can't help. Besides prayer, you can't help the person to give them what is needed. But I would also like to add that the concept in recent years about the love language, understand what love means to you does not mean the same. You have generic love, but understand that certain things that mean really a lot in showing compassion doesn't mean the same thing for someone else. For example, my primary love language is acts of service and quality time. It doesn't mean that other people, that's how they show their love,
Mhm.
right? When my mom comes to my house, she will show acts of service by doing housekeeping stuff, and I'll come home and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so, you know. But my mother's love language is not me going to her house and cleaning it. My mother's love language is if I go to the mall and pick her up something. You understand? And so you have to learn to speak the language of someone else and not just your own. In showing compassion, you need to understand that. You know, you need to also don't make assumptions about
Mhm.
what other people know, because they don't necessarily know it. For example, I shared with, I think, Elder Mirror just recently, that even though I have both mother and father, my father wasn't very an active father in my life. And as a result, I didn't have a prototype of a father. I'm going back to that word, right?
Right.
And so coming into the church, the whole idea of worshiping God as a father was just, obscure for me because I didn't even know what that meant, right? But people made the assumption that you should know, right? Because I had older brothers, I had older cousins and male figures. I would understand that father daughter relationship. I did not. God had to take me through a process, and so that's an assumption that people would make about what the relationship should look like and how I relate to God versus and how they relate to God. So be careful of your assumptions about other people and understand what love looks like for other people, right? And again, I'm going to emphasize, be attentive to what is happening so you can empathize, you can put yourself in other people's shoe.
I
Very
am
good.
so happy, Dr. Brand, that you brought the context of the church in right here. And so I want to say, as adults, then, what do we expect from persons coming in, being saved? How can we then help them in the context of what we're talking about now? We're talking about pulling out, bringing that resilience out of the individual as an adult entering church, coming with preconceived ideas, ways of doing, and thinking that they are right. How can we help those individuals?
We'll bring you back in, Lady King. We'll also get the Michael's perspective on it, and maybe even Andrew's perspective on it as we bring it down. So go ahead.
Okay, so very often in church, I remember some years ago I wanted to start a counseling arm in a church, and they always spiritualize stuff, and they don't really understand that there are real issues and damages that are happening to people that you can't just pray away.
That's
I
right.
am not saying that prayer is not powerful. Please don't misunderstand, but you need practical things to help people with,
That's
and
right.
it also means that some people probably have to be trained in these areas in order to professionally help these people. And
Yes,
because what you're doing is setting them up for more failure, for more abuse, when you just tell them to pray and fast and read the Bible. They need actual coping mechanism that they have to sit with a professional and learn about themselves. And it is not just generic for everybody. It's not, you have everyone is an individual basis. And so I think the church needs to have some sort of counseling arm because you do have Christian counselors, right? You can sit with that is a ministry of the church where let me just point out too, it is not the business of the Christian counselor to tell the bishop, the pastor, the reverend, the people's business. I need to
that's
just emphasize that, because you have to protect, because if the person is a sex addict, that doesn't mean that you have to go tell the pastor the person is a sex addict, right? The
that's
person
right.
came to you for counseling. You understand? And so we have to take that counseling arm very seriously. I just stop it right there.
Can I
Yeah,
just say something right there?
that's so powerful and true. Yes, Pastor Clive.
Very, very powerful and true. A person who is brought up into a home, and in his young and early childhood into teenager coming up and having a struggle, and you just use be having a sex issue, is but it now become a sex addict. However, the child has a lying spirit. The child grew up into the home, and because of a beating that they get at 3 and 4, they remember it, so they try to cover at all times, and they grow up, and then now it becomes a problem where they have to be lying to cover up because of the fear that was driven into them from a child, a person who in the same spin-off on a child that is fearful, a child that is that doesn't want to open up and talk about some things, have hate because mother set up the you know have favoritism in the home and cause one child to feel that they're not loved and not favored, and that child is get the second best type of thing, right? And now the child grew up into adult and they have the hate for that brother or for that sister, and we see it played out in the prodigal boy, where the prodigal boy, the one who stayed home, was the problem one, not the one that leave. The one that leave really and truly couldn't deal with the one that was kicking him under the table when it was dinner time. And we think the boy just get up and say, Father, give me what you're supposed to give to me. But listen, it's not really what I want to leave. I want to leave that boy there alone. Sorry, I'm not idiot. I want to leave my brother alone because he was the one that was kicking me while I sit at the table, and he was the one that's getting the best or the most meal because he's older and so forth and so on. And now I grew up with a hate. So before I grew up with this hate, let me leave the house and thing there. But what do you do with a child, with a person who is now become an adult and in the church and have that spirit of hate that they get saved and then the demon? Let me tell you something. Jesus tells us, when an unclean spirit leave a man, he goes forth and looking for dry place, when finally coming right back. So you get saved, and then that demon come back and say, listen me, listen me, I come back to this house. So now you have no disguise Christianity, and I'm in the church, but I have this hate. So then somebody in the church do you something wrong, and you can't get over it. You see them, and then you hate the one person, and it's a spirit, and then you hate another one, and you hate, and then now you're full of cancerous hate inside of you from a child. This thing has been brewing, and the parents, or us as parents, need to understand that not because Johnny or brother so and so and you don't get along, then you have to draw your children into the whole thing with you and causing them to have that spirit of hate. And now they grow up into adulthood and having this problem. And we think that we're training our children and we're growing them, and they're coming out to be the best because they are the greatest singer, they're the greatest musician, they're greatest this and that. But there's a spirit that is leading them. I don't even know where I'm going with this. But all I'm saying is that somebody out there needs to understand that our children are dependent on us, both in childhood, but we have to be careful how we deal with them from that tender age up into adulthood, because it spin off into their very relationship. They will be home hating their husband or hating their wives, and you're wondering how, but still have to just balance it and know how to live with that demon that they have on the inside. We have to be so careful. There's a lot of things that are happening, and I wish we had more time, Dr. Bryan, to deal with this, because this is something that I'm really dealing with it as a pastor, and really seeing that happen with not just persons in my circle, but in the church world, that is happening and causing, and we're here singing and dancing over these situations and say we're going to heaven, or we're going to when we die. But are we really dying and going to heaven? Are we really having some serious issue in the body of Christ where we hide certain things, push them under the carpet, and people are dying with all these different things? They're dying with lust, they're dying with hatred, they're dying with so many things that are happening in the body of Christ, that we need to really sit down and help and to correct, helping people, give them help. Yes, prayer is good, but they need to deal with what trigger off that hate. I'm telling you, it's happening.
Yes.
It is happening, and it's a monster and need to be dealt with.
Thank you so much, Pastor Clive. As we are going to the close, I'm going to ask the final question in a round table. We didn't get to really dig into it, but I think this is meaningful conversation that I mean, absolutely love to have our guests join us back at the table here for part two of this discussion. I'll leave it to Elder Muir to rally the troop and see if they're able to join us at another time for part two. But I want to ask you real quick in about maybe 30 seconds, as we are right at the top of the at the end there, is in respect, in spite of everything that we have gone through in that we're dealing with, how can the dysfunction, the abuse, the judgment, the daddyless daughter, the daddyless son is what I'll give it a name, because sometimes parents can be in the home and daddy can be absent. Daddy gone syndrome, that I call it. I'm not even putting a noun in there. Daddy gone, mommy gone. And so now here it is that I'm struggling and I'm dealing with this by not having that example, not having that community. I want to know, how can we develop a growth mindset to enhance our resilience? How do we develop that mindset? And I want to do that as a round table. Lady King, I'll start with you and I'll come down.
I'll just do with the scripture. The Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your minds. And
Mm,
so it starts right there. It's the perfect fertile ground for everything. And it takes careful weeding out. For anyone who's into gardening, you'll understand this. It takes careful weeding out of these weeds, going over stuff, reflecting, make sure you're nurturing your mind with the things of God. So be transformed, not just, every now and again, but consistently with the word of God, with the things of God, with the practice, with the application.
of God. Thank you so much. Let me ask you, Andrew Mark, sir, your take on it in respect of how we move forward, that growth mindset to enhance the resilience.
Torrance has said, I'm in total agreement with her. We need to learn to develop healthy habits, have strong relationships in terms of our friendships, or have that sort of positive environment. I'm not remembering the young lady's name, but a lot of times we,
Sister
we
King?
tend to, Sister King, my apologies. We tend to, because we are Christians, for every problem we are telling them to pray to the Lord about this. And we are not actually offering solutions. Just as she has said, I'm not saying that anything is
Right.
wrong with that. But for
Yeah.
example, let me just quickly say, for the sex addict, just to look at a man or a lady and to say, pray to God about it and everything will be fine. I don't really believe that helps. Why not tell the person, if there's a particular, for the man, lady, whom you like, try not to be around that person alone. Let it not, don't be in a situation where it's just the both of you. If you're going to go out on dates, maybe you have two or three other good friends, you all go together and that sort of thing. this
Right.
this is how. And I think Elder Muir said something about individuals coming into church with their own um perception and that sort of thing. We need to encourage individuals to be open-minded. We need to learn to adapt, you know when circumstances change. We need to be flexible.
Mhm.
And of course, yes, it is important that we trust the Lord, because that is basically the foremost things. But in that, we need to find practical things
Yes.
for not just the individuals, but for us. We need to find those practical things to do.
That we can have the solution. Thank you to get some help, rather, so we can
Get
solve it.
right.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Coming to you, Sir Michael.
Yes, so I'm just going to say this one thing. Social support is extremely important. And let me tell you something about social support and the church. The church has men's fellowship, youth fellowship, young ladies ministry, ministries all over the place. And you know what happened? When the church is supposed to be being deliberate about these challenges, at each of these fellowships that you go, it's just that small, it's just a condensed version of regular Sunday service.
Yes, that's
It's
true.
not, you're not going to men's fellowship for a man who can help you to reframe, to help you with your challenges, to sit with you and do fellowship and you talk, probably play some dominoes. Or you're going, we're having the service, same service like we had at Sunday, it's just that we use in a smaller time today. So somebody coming to preach, somebody coming to do praise and worship, somebody coming to collect the offering, somebody to come in to do all of this. But that's social support. So the church would have known and recognized, and that's why I have these many different arms, that people need social support that mommy and daddy or the community, that part of the community might not be able to give to you. And so we're extending the community, and what community is more important than the church community to provide the support. The structure is there because all these fellowship is being kept. We just need to be deliberate about providing the support for persons so that it can
Wow.
persons.
Wow, so powerful, so powerful, so
Wow.
powerful. I'm telling you, we always talk about it, and I'm so glad you hit, as we said, the nail on the head, where we condense it, but it's the same thing. We just have a smaller group. But and I said what sense it is, and at a particular time I stopped going to men fellowship, I must admit, because of that. I'm not seeing the purpose of it. We're going and we're not having meaningful conversation. Young men among us getting married have never been in relationship, and this is where the Bible said let the older teach the young, and I'm not seeing where we're bringing that in and really tell them the real practical thing, the real talk now, not the counseling side of it, but the real talk of what happening in a marriage and among brothers and among brethren is what the youths want. Women, the same thing. Sister dealing with stuff, talk real man and talk true to sister when it comes to women fellowship. These holy for service and still praise and worship and Holy Ghost. I mean, and you don't take away from that, yeah, that community, that information, that guidance. The Bible says let the older women teach the younger how to be wives to their husband, how to keep their home. Because a wise woman keep their home, they need that training. And of course, it happened in those. And you touch it, and I really, really love it. Lit that fire there. Um, uh, we are out of time. We are. Pastor Clive, I'll give you 30 seconds, sir. Your final word. Elder Muir, you have 30 seconds with your final word. We got to make way for Auntie Renee at the top of the hour. Pastor Clive, final word, sir.
I just want to say that we need to be true to self. Um, be true to self. We know where we are. The things that affect us, as in from our childhood. And I would really love for us to dive back into this discussion next week to deal with that child within the child. That deal with the child within the child for next week or something. Be honest to self. Look within yourself, because it has it we enter into relationship, into marriage, and expect our wives to become our therapists, and our wives are not our therapists. And I want
Yes.
to say is that we need to be able to be honest and says, you know what, I think I need to be checked out into
Yes.
or checked on.
Yeah, I need help. Help.
I need
Cry out
help.
for help. I need help. I've fallen and I can't get up. I need help. Elder Muir, your final word, sir. Thank you, Pastor Clive.
Thank you. I love the idea of social connectivity because it's very important. But what I want to say is that if there's a glass of water and you have that social connection at all strata of society, whether vertically or horizontally, it will serve for those who are there and present and who wants to be a part. If I have a river of water or a stream or an ocean of water, only those who are there will actually get a sip of that water. What I'm saying is that for us to really teach individuals who have come into the church, they have to be willing to be taught. And what I'm saying to parents out there with children, adults as well, we must be willing to be taught and willing to learn and relearn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elder Muir. Thank you, Pastor Clive. Let me say big thank you to Natalie King, educator, and Joe Mark Jones, of course, see professional there in the finance field. Thank you so much for your input, Michael Coward. Thank you so much, sir. Field of social work for over 17 years. Thank you to my very special guests who have joined us here, or special guests who have joined us here on the Ironman Empowerment Podcast. I'm telling you, really a thought-provoking discussion. I would love, absolutely love to have them back. As we close the show here this morning, we just want to say to you, again, thank you to everyone for joining us here on this powerful journey. Yes, yes. Big thank you. Big thank you. So thank you for joining us on this powerful journey of self-discovery and transformation. Today, our guests shared their remarkable story and expertise, guiding us through the process of unlocking the resilient adult within. We've explored the ways in which our inner child shape us and how healing and empowering that inner child can lead to more authentic, compassionate, and purpose-driven life. Remember, the journey of transformation is not always easy, but it's worth it. By acknowledging, embracing, and healing our inner wounds, we can tap into a deep wellspring of strength, courage, and resilience. Take the lessons and insight from today's conversation. and apply them to your own life. You have the power to unlock your full potential and become the resilient adult you were meant to be. On behalf of the entire production crew, we invite you to join us next week on the Ant-Man Empowerment Podcast, where we continue to explore the depth of human potential and transformative power of resilience. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on our YouTube platform and Facebook. Also, download our application anywhere where you download the apps, Higher Ground Gospel Radio. Share your thoughts with us on our social media platform using the hashtag Ironman Empowerment. Until then, keep pushing forward and remember to empower yourself and others along the way. Stay tuned. Coming up next, Auntie Renee on the Kids Block at the top of the hour. Thank you so much. God bless. Take care. Join us for the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast, where we discuss matters close to the heart. This and every Saturday at 8 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on HGG Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, alongside your co-host, Pastor Clive Atkinson, Bishop Hopeton Morris, and Elder Edmund Muir. The Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. We're not just talk, we're informative.
What a mighty God. HGG Radio. My eyes to the Maker. What a mighty God. What a mighty God.
What a mighty God we serve on this morning.
When I am low,
Thank you for joining us right here on AGG Radio.
you meet my needs, you answer me, and now I stand in victory. What a mighty God. What a mighty
For joining us right here on AGG Radio. Coming up at 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, we are joining Auntie Renee with the children. Of course, join us back next week, same time, same place, right here. The Ironman Empowerment Podcast, of course, with our Dr. Lincoln Bryan. Great discussion this morning. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. And of course, see you then. Stick and stay with me. If you have not downloaded the app, please go ahead and do so. This is where I pull things down on the YouTube channel.
You fill me up.
The Lord bless you richly.
You show me the way to go. You meet my needs. You answer me. And now I stand in victory. What a mighty
HGG Radio.
What a mighty What a mighty
Will get better. Your grace so high.
Your weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning flow.
Now your greater is coming.
Mondays to Fridays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. MST. With me, your host, Odette Thompson, right here on HGG Radio.
in your name.
I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health as your soul prospers. We believe for it.
Transforming your relationship. every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's all about loving on purpose and the challenges that face us and how our relationship can be transformed. Are you feeling stuck in life or a loveless marriage? Let's journey together as you discover clarity, purpose, and fulfillment in life. I'm Bonita Grange, your relationship and life coach. Why suffer in silence when help is right here? Let's connect for a 30 minutes complimentary session at www.tlcbonitagrange.com or right here on HGG Radio. Talk to you soon. God bless.
Activate Core presents its annual virtual book tour from June 29th to August 31st. Join 30 authors from different countries and different genres as we traverse the virtual spaces of YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, WeChat, and many others. Join in our live radio interviews, webinars, and book reading activities. Share in our stories of hope with families and friends on the HGG Gospel Radio Station in Canada. Contact us at activatecore7@gmail.com for more information. See you online.
That's the virtual book tour live right here on HGG Radio, July 1st to August 9th, Mondays and Fridays, 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, inside the Morning Flow with Pastor Odette Thompson. Looking forward to seeing you.
Are you ready to amplify your message and reach hearts with purpose?
Introducing HGG Advertising, your partner in spreading the gospel and connecting with the Christian community.
Churches, Christian-based businesses, listen up.
With HGG Advertising, you can reach your audience through powerful radio campaigns.
Engage hearts, inspire minds, and grow your community with HGG Radio, which is already reaching 136 countries worldwide.
We specialize in promoting Christian values and helping businesses aligned with faith-based principles.
Whether it's a church event or your business rooted in Christian values, HGG Advertising is here for you.
Connect with us and let's share your message with purpose.
HGG Advertising, spreading the gospel, connecting communities. Email us today at ads@hggradio.ca. That's ads@hggradio.ca. Or call us today at 825-343-4486.
You know, when I first came to Canada 20 something years ago, all I want was Jamaican food, Jamaican food, Jamaican food.
Looking for a Jamaican restaurant in Edmonton? A Yamida Jamaican restaurant and bakery. Get your oxtail, curry goat, jerk chicken, rice and peas, ackee and saltfish, fried dumplings, patties, and so much more. A Yamida Jamaican restaurant and bakery. Opening hours Mondays to Thursdays, 11 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Visit them today at 4435 118 Avenue or call 780-479-1900.
Radio.
Top African Fashion, the one-stop shop for all your African needs for men, women, and children. Top African Fashion. We sell anchor and lace fabric, wigs, jewelry, African traditional beads, matching shoes and bags for ladies. We also carry shoes for men and kids, belts, and so much more. Top African Fashion for all season, occasion, and celebration, church, wedding, and graduation. Top African Fashion. Open every day. Visit us today at 9338 118 Avenue, Edmonton, or call 780-224-7339. Top African Fashion.
Power in the name of Jesus.
Join me, Elder Edmund Muir, and the Higher Ground Tabernacle family as we team up with prayer warriors from all around the globe to break down walls of oppression and bring victory to your situation. Join us in Higher in Prayer on HGG Radio this and every Monday night, 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. Send us your prayer request or testimonies to our WhatsApp number 825-343-4486. That's 825-343-4486. And higher in prayer until you feel the Holy Ghost fire. See you then.
Oh, there is power in the name of Jesus.
HGG Radio.
Join us for the Iron Man Empowerment Podcast, where we discuss matters close to the heart. This and every Saturday at 8 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on HGG Radio. I am your host, Dr. Lincoln Bryan, alongside your co-host, Pastor Clive Atkinson, Bishop Hopeton Morris, and Elder Edmund Muir. The Iron Man Empowerment Podcast. We're not just talk, we're informative.
I'm still standing.
HGG Radio is celebrating 2 incredible years of spreading God's love and inspiration. We are still standing, and it's all thanks to God and your faithful support. As we mark this milestone, we're reminded that God's word reaches all, whether we are at the highest mountain or the lowest valley. And that's exactly what HGG Radio is all about. Reaching you at the highest mountain and the lowest valley with gospel, inspirational music, and uplifting messages. We need your continued support to keep sharing this message of hope. Visit our website at www.hegradio.ca or send a WhatsApp message at 825-343-4486 to donate and help us keep the light shining bright. Let's keep spreading the love of God together.
And it's burning in my house.